Hello everyone, Starltros here coming back with another JP FFBE update video. Today we have quite a big one. It's part 2 or part 3 of Anniversary. I stopped counting, but it's the next Anniversary banner. And who says Anniversary better than Lightning? Crickets. So we got a new Lightning coming out, the Fire of Fate Lightning. Her name is a mouthful in Japanese, but that's what we settled on for the name. And then we got another unit, Ashal, coming out with her. We also have crowns for Orlando and Zach, and also EX abilities for tons of units. So we're just gonna cover these. I'm gonna go a little quicker over the EX abilities for the units. I made kind of little summaries. I'm just gonna read you as I scroll through, and you can look at the page when we're gonna get there. But like what's interesting is what I'm going to cover, and if I missed anything, feel free to sound in the comments. So let's get right into it with Lightning first. So the Fire of Fate Lightning, her TMR, basically what she always gets. So 50% attack and machine healer 50%, but also aquatics this time because it's the flavor of the day for Dark Visions. Just a little thing that's kind of funny. Her TMR, it's a materia. The name is Dual Weapon something, because I can't read the kanjis, unfortunately. I'm not good in Japanese enough. But she's not a dual wielder. It's dual weapon, but the weapons are combined. Whatever. Then in terms of STMR, she has an accessory that gives 113 attack. So this is the new highest we have for an accessory slot. Right over Zach's gloves, which was 92. Tied in with there was something else. I think it was what's his name, Faye from Xenogears, which also had something with 92. So we have a big upgrade here with an extra 30% attack and MP, which is really nice. And the classic static attack for her. In terms of categories, our little pink-haired lady has lightning, fire, water. So kind of elements you'd expect from her. Usually she had ice as well. Now she doesn't, so this is missing. But we're gonna survive. In terms of other tags, she has will breaker because she has a little bit of breaking. F13 obviously, rebellion as she always does. Guardians, elite soldiers, saviors, sword masters, and the new category now, transcendent. I used to always complain about sword masters being there every time before. Now I'm going to complain about transcendent being there because sword masters is finally getting a leader. Wink wink, I'm talking about her right now. One thing you can notice if you're looking at the categories is she is not a flower of the battlefield. So she is no longer frail and weak. She isn't a flower. She is a soldier, and she is, commanding the battlefield, not just a flower standing by like the other girls, I guess, in the games. So no longer a flower. Maybe wasn't missing. It's gonna be added later, like they did with Sabraska's Final Aeon, not having the Chaos Bringers. I think that was missing from him, and I think he was missing Evocation as well. I don't quite remember. Anyway, there was a category missing for him, and they added it later. Maybe that's going to happen with her as well because she's the only girl so far that doesn't have a flower of the battlefield. So we'll see what happens. In terms of her EX materia, she has an extra overkiller for machines, 50%. So continuing the trend, and fits well with her to have the machine killer. Now, if we go look at her kit, she has at EX1, she's going to get two things. So she's going to get the 500% LB buff, and also a 200% lightning imperil. So that's very good. At EX2, she gets even more utility with that new wave of lightning amplify. So a 200% for herself and for a friend. So it's not a 250, but at least she's providing for somebody else as well. And then for the rest of her kit, the classics, the usual. Now, in terms of her non-elemental chaining, she does have a modifier buff here for it at 4700. The base is 3500, and she has an extra 1100 at the in her passives. So all that added together, and she can multicast it as well. Yeah, she can multicast it as well, so she could cast twice this and then finish with that. All in all, give me a quick second because I forgot to math that part. Uh, 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 so let's see. That's about an 1100 and a little bit higher. So about 1100 in terms of an LB. So not quite as high as her LB. It's the new trend. Like Elena had, her non-elemental chaining was really lower than her LB, instead of being like really close like the others were before. But still not bad. You know, you can still use it for the regular chain whenever you'd like. Um, then she also has a AoE killer for aquatics and machine, and also it's going to give some mitigations, 30% for those races as well. So pretty good. It's not a full uptime, but you're probably just going to use it like a turn or two before the kill anyway. She has some LB fill, which has kind of been a new trend as well with the newer units. Pretty good to have. Unfortunately, you need to cast it 4 times to fill someone's LB gauge, most units anyway. It also gives stop resist, which is pretty handy, and paralyze resist if ever that was something you needed for the current fight. I have to admit I haven't tried the boss in Dark Visions right now. If he paralyzes, well, it paralyzes. I guess that's why it's there. Now she also has a 90% defense and spirit break, which is really good. Sadly, oh no, I was about to say sadly her imperil is not really there. It is there. Never mind me. Don't listen to me, or listen to me just to what I say sometimes, not every time. In terms of the rest of her utility, you know, she has imbue for her elements, and then she has an amplify field for 70%, which is pretty good, but not the best anymore. We're going to see when we look at Ashal after. And she also has a 50% lightning imperil field. So if you don't want to go pull for Ashal, she's going to be your one-stop shop for your lightning, like pure lightning team in terms of fields. If you want to bring other elements into it, she is going to be useless in terms of fields because she is pure lightning. In terms of her passives, she does have the premium unit special with the 200% killers. Other than that, that's about it. Nothing else really to mention in her kit. She has some evade, which is kind of nice. And she has some passive that she is going to cast at the beginning of the fight. As with any other breaker, she gets the 87, well, you know, the cloud special. And now it's going back to the 145% here for only her elements. It's only for 2 turns. So, you know, she's not Rain's level of preemptive break, but she has it. And she also has 100% Omni Killer for herself, and you know, some attack buff and some LB buff if you want to just do a 1 turn kill. So she's gonna have that there. Otherwise, she also has, well, weak for an imperil. Sorry, how's that called again in English? I forgot. Well, it's called imperil. Yeah. So she has imperil Ga. So 130 to all ailments. That's not going to be what you're going to be using mostly. She can cure status ailments if ever, to one ally. I guess it's good to have, you know, in a pinch. And last but not least, she has Enthondaga to imbue your team with lightning. So that's really good. In terms of leader skill, Lightning has a 1500 for Sword Masters and Lightning, and 1250 when they're only Sword Masters. So you know, if you're using her in a team, if you want her to be, you know, the leader and the main support with the fields, then you're going to be using a full lightning team anyway. So they're probably going to be getting the full 1500s. But here we go. We finally have the first Sword Masters leader. And you know, since basically everyone in history is a Sword Master, then here you got it. So she can lead just about anyone with 1250, and what she's going to bring most utility to, a full 1500. So there's that for her leader skill. And in terms of overdrive, because she is an overdrive unit, she's the first of her kind. So it's a 200% LB damage buff. So that's even higher for those LB units, bringing, you know, the chasm between those ability chainers and LB users even bigger, and also a damage increase, 15% for all the elite soldiers category. So now, one thing I do not like about this is, so they need to be sword masters, they need to be lightning, and they need to be elite soldiers on top of it. I feel like the requirements to have everything fit in there is a little finicky. Like I think it's too much. I think they're like it should have been just sword masters or just lightning units. Like bring elite soldiers in there kind of doesn't make sense to me, but maybe it's just me. I just think it's too much in terms of niche. Like, obviously, you're gonna have other units that will have other overdrive skills. Will they be as good as this though? Probably not. So I feel like that's too much at this point. Maybe reel it in to be more in line with what you want for your leader skill, and that would be better in my opinion. But once again, just my opinion. In terms of LB, with the full buffs and everything, she gets a 1500 times LB. So that is, pretty strong. It's up to the meta. And she is an AMOE chainer here. Oh, and come to think of it, this is non-elemental as well. So you never want to be using her. Um, you never really want to be using her chaining abilities. This is literally all you're going to be using all the time, her LB anyway. So, yep, the LB is the way to go. And there you have it for lightning. Now, if we go see Pink Hair Boyd Ashal, so from the story Revenge of the Lost Nations, so part of that summoner tribe. In terms of TMR, he gets a robe, well, clothes for 86 magic. Not bad, not the best, but it's gonna cover to until you get him to EX2. When you're gonna get the rod for 252 magic, and also 100% human killer, which is really nice. And then the classic 500 magic static given to him only. Um, I think you're still better off using the Dark Vision's two-handed rod and giving him his robe. Yeah, I think it's still going to be better at 250. I think it would need to be 250 and 1000 static to be better than the Dark Vision's rod. But you know, depending on the party you're using, maybe somebody else is going to be having that rod. So you do you in terms of equipment. In terms of categories, he has lightning, fire, ice, and dark. He is a mage. FFBE obviously, anniversary, evocation because it's the summer tribe. Rebellion, royal arms, harbinger of chaos because he's a villain, and elite soldiers. Um, so not bad, I guess. I haven't really given any thought to his categories, um, but I think it's fine. Well, it's gonna fit well with no, it's not gonna fit well with lightning. Never mind. He doesn't use a sword. So, but he would benefit though from the elite soldiers. Um, but sadly, he's only a lightning unit and not a sword masters, so you wouldn't benefit from the leader skill from her. Let's look at the rest. I didn't mention Lightning's card because it was just once again a 130 card for attack and magic. So bringing it back to what we had previously. I don't know why they dialed it back. For Ashal, it's a little different. I wouldn't say it is amazing, but it's interesting that they brought the other stats. So we got 1000 HP. We got 130 to every stat, so spirit, magic, defense, and attack. And then in terms of the other stats, it's more. I guess it's almost a tank card more than anything, but it's not bad. Like it's not locked to anything. So you're getting 30% to all stats, 15% resist to all elements, and also a 300 flat stat to every stat as well. So not bad. It's just like it's not going to be used on him if you have the good meta cards, but it's good to have anyway for your tanks or your supports, I would say. His EX ability, so when you get him to EX3, is a 50% overkiller for fairies. I think it's because, being a summoner and usually espers are considered fairies whenever we're fighting them in game, so I think it kind of makes sense. But yeah, that's it. So we're just going to be covering all the races at some point. In terms of his kit, at EX1, he gets the 500% LB buff, and also a 200% Dark Imperil. So 200% Dark Imperil at EX1, and at EX2, then he get the 250% lightning imperil. So if he's in a Thunder team with Lightning, for example, you can use him for Thunder, even though he's not EX2. But if he's not with Lightning, you're gonna want to use him more for a Dark unit, I guess, until you get him to EX2, where he's really gonna come into his own with the 250 Imperil. So that brings the total Thunder Imperil to 300% with a 50% field from, say, Lightning, Luna Freya, Elena, whichever unit you want for your field. He also gets the 200% Lightning and Dark Amplify for himself only. So it's not the 250, but it's for 2 elements. So I guess that's why they dialed it back for him. In terms of the rest of his kit, I didn't really math his abilities, but he has ability chaining. He also, with this, can unlock evocation chains. So unfortunately, I didn't math it. If you want to tell me how much it is, feel free to go and say so in the comments, because that's a lot of calculations. I don't really feel like getting into for evocation, because usually they're a little under meta. But it's gonna give him some more flexibility, I guess, in terms of chaining. Um, the rest here is the real interesting part of his kit. So this is a field for lightning at 100% amplify for your team. So that's the highest we have for lightning. So lightning is definitely going to be the best element if you want to move into the meta with lightning and him as well. Really, really strong. Unfortunately, he's got only a 350 stat buff for the units, but it's still good. Then an Imperil for Fire, Ice, Lightning, and Dark. So his elements 160, but sadly to only one enemy, but whatever. He got the Evoker buff for 200%. He has a 50% Rud Imperil, which is really nice. Sadly, it's one use per battle. He can also refill his LB gauge using only one Esper Stone. So he can just cast that twice, and then he's ready to LB again. He can also nullify a spell, so that's the Nethicide ability we talk about all the time. Very good. We like having it on multiple different units. And he also has a regular break for 85%. So because he has this, I don't really know why they didn't give him the breaker tag here. I guess now you're not a breaker unless you break 89%, but there you are. So he's got an 85% break, so that can be your backup break, at least a defensive break before you're while you're setting up. In terms of his passives, well, nothing really worth mentioning here. Modifier buffs at EX1 for his abilities. He has some killers, so he's got the 200% killer for 6 different. Oh wait, was it an Omni? Was it an Omni for her? Yes, it was. Okay, for her it was every races. For him, is it? Yeah, it is every races as well. Sorry, I got confused for a second. It is every races. So you get 200% like any other premium unit. I guess we can't really call them premium units anymore because they don't have super good cards. um, and then he has a lot of evocation stats, which is pretty nice because it can be hard to cap sometimes, especially when you want to make it to 600% to all stats for, well, not all stats, but to magic for the NV plus units. In terms of what he can unlock with his passives, well, you got the evoke chains I was talking about. So you just cast them once, they're 32 hits, which is a full 4 cast of Chaos Wave Awakened. He does start the fight with the usual breaker preemptive, so 87 to Spirit because he's a mage, and 145 to all his elements. But he doesn't have the breaker tag. I'd like to repeat that. And he starts the fight with is it starting the fight or every turn? Yes, yeah, it's the start of the fight. So he's gonna start the fight with one stack with focus and killer to all races 100%. The LB buff and the magic buff, so 300 and 200%. So the new usual, I would say. In terms of leader skill, So he is a little bit more flexible than Lightning. That's 1500 to units that are both Rebellion and Lightning, and 1500 to units who are both Elite Soldiers and Lightning. So if you want to use him together with Lightning, he is going to be the leader. He is in charge of the pink-haired people. So Elite Soldiers and Rebellions and Lightning are going to be getting the most out of his leader skill. Sadly, what that means though is if they are Elite Soldiers and Water, for example, they will not get anything at all from him. But if you're using him as the leader with the 250% Imperil and the 100% Amplify Field, you're going to want to be going with Lightning anyway as your element. And in terms of overdrive skill, because it's another overdrive unit, he has a 30% damage boost to rebellion units. So sadly, people who are in the elite soldiers categories won't get it, but that's what lightning's for. And if we look at his LB is a that's a 1300, yeah, 1300 times modifier. It is wait, yeah, okay. It is multi-element, so you can choose lightning, you can choose fire, you can choose dark, you can choose ice, just like Noctis or Ibarra, for example. So it's one of those multi-LB you can just choose before you cast it. It's an AMOE chain for a mage, so it's a little weird, but now that Rain and Lastwell have BS chaining on their LB, I guess now mages are AMOE. So there we go, just shaking things up. Woohoo! Now, in terms of other updates, so Sword Saint Orlando, so Thunder God Sid, he is getting an NVA Plus Awakening. NV Plus Awakening. So what changes for him? Not much. He's getting the 150 Amplify. Or did he already have that? I think he already had that. Never mind. He is getting 500% LB buff. He is getting an crown also at the same time, so his LB modifier here increases to 300. All in all, with also a passive he has, it's a no, not a, yeah, the usual 100 time modifier passive. It is a full 1200 times modifier he gets. So not bad, but not meta defining, but still usable. Very like it's better than the previous meta. So he could definitely come to your Thunder team. He would be a good unit for it. Other than that, well, he keeps the rest of his kit. I think he gets some. Yeah, he gets some flat attack, and that's about it for him. So yeah. Now, if we want to go look at the next one, it's Zach. So Zach actually got yeah, I wouldn't say the short end of the stick, but he's not as good as Orlando in terms of damage. So he got he that's EX abilities for him and crowns as well. So Orlando was only crowns and the NVA plus. Zach is crowns and EX bonus. So the EX bonus is the thing when you have like multiple copies past EX3, you turn them into fragments and you gacha the buff you get. So he can get a 200% human killer for himself. He can get a 50% Thunder Amplify field. So they couldn't give him 70%, otherwise you wouldn't pull for a Shal and Lightning. So that's a 50 he's getting. But it's a bit sad, especially when we're going to see the other units down the line that actually got such buffs with the EX abilities. But poor Zac has always been a little lagging behind the other units in the same meta. Whatever. He also gets the 500% LB damage buff. And one thing he gets that's pretty nice here for him is a 200% Amplify for Thunder for himself and a friend. So just like Lightning, so he can amplify somebody else as well. So if you bring Lightning and Zac together, then you've got 4 units that will be 200% amplified, and yeah, Ashal could do 200% for himself as well, so you got 5. Um, and if say, yeah, if you're doing a trial, you're gonna have either another lightning or another Ashal, and then it's gonna be full team at 200%. Or if you're doing dark visions, then you're gonna have a support that's not gonna need it anyway. So the full 5 units are gonna be covered. The rest, well, he gets through the crowns LB modifier here. He also gets some static attack. I think he got something else, didn't he? Yeah. Through the EX abilities. Where was it? Was it the EX abilities? Now I'm confused. Yes. Oh no, it's the crowns. Sorry, with the crowns. That's why that's why I glossed over it. Sorry. So with the crowns, he gets a 300 times buff to his LB. So you got 2 different buffs from the crowns and his passives. A 300 that will never leave. So that's for the entire fight. And then you got the thing you need to cast once again with the crowns at 320. So that's an extra 620 plus the 100 for the first 5 turns, bringing his full thing to a whole 1120. So as you see, like it's slightly lower in terms of the damage, but still, with he's going to bring some utility with the amplifies, and he can be your backup field if you don't have Ashal and Lightning, or I guess some maybe Ash. Yeah, Ash, like older Ash could do it as well. Like you have other options for the 70% field anyway, but if you don't have them, he can be your 50% field, and you can call it a day. Now, Knights of Grandchild, I'm just gonna kind of scroll through and really like look at what's written there. I wrote myself some notes, so you guys look at the screen while I read you my notes. So basically, what he's getting is in base a 1070 times modifier, and in shift a 1200 times modifier. But his shift form unfortunately needs to ramp up, so he needs to cast it once, and then you can like refill his LB and everything and cast it again, which is a little unfortunate because if you want to cast everything, he's also trans shift, so you can't cast everything because he needs to cast. Well, if you want to use his 70% field, for example, because he got a new. Yeah, sorry, I have. Okay, that didn't work. So he's getting a 70% amplify field for light, and also he's getting the 500% LB buff and an LB modifier buff here with the EX abilities. And what else was it? Here as well, he already had that. So yeah, from before, from his crown stages. So if you wanted to give him his 150 amplify, along with casting the field and casting the mod buff, then you can no longer cast his LB fill. So you're gonna need either somebody else to fill his LB or to cast the field before. So you're gonna need to stagger it. Like wait until he can only like go to full potential at turn 4. Basically, is what I'm trying to get at. Which is not great, but you can still cast the field in base form, then go to shift on turn 2, use his LB. Turn 3, then you're gonna refill and do the other modifiers, and then you can go again. But I don't. He feels a little clunky because he has a lot to do with so few abilities, so that's kind of weird. We haven't used ramping up units with LBs for a long time, so it feels weird to be coming back to them now. But overall, 1200 times, not bad, but not the greatest. He's on par with Orlando, but for light. Now, Axstar the Return. So Axstar the Return and Reagan the Return, both the same. Basically, the same units. So one is light, one is dark. So just change whatever I'm going to say to light, and we're going to have Reagan's kit. So Axstar gets a couple of things, nothing too great, and those are only EX abilities. Same like with Knights of Grandchild. It's the old Knights of Grandchild, not the new one. He's only getting EX abilities, like no crowns. He already had them before. So for Axstar the Return, the EX abilities are 320 modifier LB modifier buff, and then oh, that's a 400%. It's not even a 500%. Oh, poor thing. Poor thing. He's also getting a break for 89%, so defense and spirit break for 89%, and dark resist imperil 180%. Because he's always been a dark breaker, so it's just a slightly more potent dark breaker, and you don't need to use this LB for the break. The modifier buff here for 320 is not the only thing he gets, because he also gets in his passives here a really high attack static. Static. Sorry for the accent there. So a static buff for attack. He also gets an extra chain modifier cap. So with this one here, it means you no longer need an external source to bring him to 200%. And you also have this buff that casts at the beginning of the fight, which is for this here. So same thing with Zac. So there's the 350 on top of the 320. So bringing the full thing with his LB modifier to 1000. So he's still not going to deal a lot of damage, but he is a breaker, and you're probably going to be using him nowhere unless it's category restricted, and he's all you have for that category. Now, blah, 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 I'm just reading the same thing for Reagan. The only thing that changes for Reagan is the chain cap passive, because he's a dual wielder. So what they gave him instead is the 200% over chain cap limit. So he's going to go to 800 times, 800% chain cap. That's literally the only difference between these two units. The other one being that this one's light, the other one was dark. Now, if we look at Dark Rain, our little friend Dark Rain here, once again, only EX abilities. And so what he is getting is, 260 times modifier, the 500% LB damage buff as well, and a 70% amplified field as well, just like Knights of Grandchild. So they're both getting 70, and then poor Zac is getting 50%, because we don't want to rain on, no pun intended, we don't want to rain on Lightning's parade. I just realized while I was saying it. Otherwise, oh yeah, he also get a 50% spear imperil, which is pretty nice. Otherwise, yeah, that's it for him. He also gets in the passives the same thing as Reagan, Zac, and Axstar guy. So some static, just not as high. Modifier cap increase, because he's a dual wielder as well. And then if you go look, that's 200. So 200 plus 260. So that's not too much for him. So everything considered for him, he gets a full 1000 as well. The problem with him, though, what I'd like to mention is he still needs to focus using his TMR, because he doesn't have. Oh wait, never mind. He doesn't need to focus using his TMR, at least for one burst. If you need to do more than one burst, then you're gonna need to focus using his TMR again, which means one full turn of casting it. No, 2 full turns of casting it. Unless you're quad casting, then it's going to be 1 full turn of casting it and half another turn casting it, with the other buffs you're probably going to want to be using as well. So yeah, Dark Rain, actually not so bad, but mages are always getting the short end of the stick. Sadly, he's only 1000 time modifier. Doesn't compare to, say, Sophie or even Ace that got the big buffs in the last patch. So that's kind of weird that he's behind like that. But it is what it is. He's a villain, Dark Rain. He shouldn't be getting those those big buffs and be better than the other mages, I guess. So that's it for the units. Now, one other thing that I would mention before I move on to the events is there was a live stream yesterday, and the live stream added some more information that we don't have here. So one thing is we're having a little update to the way Magic Focus works. Well, I guess it's also the same for physical store abilities, but no one uses those anyway. Like, I mean, sorry, Golden Riser, but no one uses you anymore. The focus abilities will no longer be consumed unless you're using an ability that deals damage. So it means that you could use, your focus on a turn before, then use only buffs the turn after, and you're still going to keep the focus so long as none of your abilities or counters deals damage. So you're going to still keep them. So you might want to be careful not to give your mages Blizzard Orb for Death Resist, for example, because I mean sometimes you just want to give whatever to anyone just to give Death Resist for a trial. Maybe you don't want to give them that because they might counter and then lose their magic focus because they're going to be using an attack. Um, so that was the only kind of update I wanted to mention. Otherwise, what we are getting, not this patch, but probably next patch, so in 10 days, we will get a new true serious boss battle. So it's going to be Orphan this time. It gets a true version, which means we're going to get also the Orphan unit. At that time, I honestly don't remember the Orphan fight much in FFBE. All I remember is when you fought him in Final Fantasy 13, there was a timer, and that was really obnoxious, and I had a hard time with it because I was really bad at the game. But I made it eventually after like bashing my head against the wall a couple times. And then further down the line, I think it's at the end of October that they mentioned, we would get a new grace trial. So this time it's not wind, it's not fire, it's not dark. It's a brand new one, so it's true grace of light. Since it's a new grace trial, I don't know if they're gonna give us like the 3-wave. You got to clear the 3-wave first, and then you can go clear the 4-wave after. So we're going to see when that comes out. But that's finally a light trial that's coming. So can't wait to see. I can't wait to see how it's going to go. Like it's been so long since we got a new elemental trials. That's pretty exciting. I'm actually excited for this one, even though I still haven't cleared the true grace of water nor the true grace of lightning because I'm too lazy to go and do them. Now, in terms of events, what we're going to get this week is, well, the crown stage for Zack, so it's going to be fighting against Genesis. The crown stage for Orlando, so he's going to go and fight against, I think that's Tiamat. Yeah, yeah, that's Tiamat. Um, then here we have the series event, so that's a Mog King event for Final Fantasy 13 to go along with Lightning. So, Mog King, burn as many stamina potions as you want, complain about how long it is, and then return to hibernate for a couple of days because you're done in 2 days. Here, that's the Blue Pearl stage for Lightning. And I guess they're going to add a shawl to the same one as Knights of Grandshield, Rain, and Lastwell. So she's alone there for now. Maybe we're going to get other units later down the line. We don't know just yet. And last but certainly not least, and I want to really I want to highlight this. This is a separate shard dungeon. So you do have the regular one as usual, but we're getting the same ones as we got for the collaboration units that we got like twice already before. So this one is the same. So you're going to go in there. You're going to get 5 fragments for each and every one of the units you bring in there. So all 5 units will get 5 fragments. And this is for rebellion category units. So by all means, if you're pulling for lightning, if you're pulling for a shawl, throw them in there to get more fragments. If you want to get your EX abilities for Zack, I guess you can throw him in there as well. Never mind, he's not rebellion. I take that back. Orlando doesn't count. He doesn't have EX abilities, but if he's not EX3 for you, you can throw him in there because he's rebellion. Otherwise, you have tons of other rebellion units. For example, Terra. For example, Celeste. Yes, Celeste actually could fit with these. She's just not as meta as the other picks like Orlando or Zack, but she's rebellion and Zack isn't. So take this. So yeah, there you go. There you have it. That's everything for this week. That was a pretty big video. That was a long video. Sorry, there was a lot to cover. That was also me speaking as fast as I can, so I can finish it before it takes 2 hours. Um, So thank you very much for joining, listening, and see you. Actually, my next video is going to be a little late, so see you in about 3 weeks when I'm going to cover much too late the latest update. See ya. Bye.